Hi, Anne. My name is Fatima Ouadif, and I am currently a weekend MBA student here at the Imperial College Business School. And I'm really interested in really just looking at your career and how much experience you've had leadership roles in different organizations. Looking back, what do you think are the tips that you wish you had known when you started your career? And what advice would you give out to women who are just starting today?
So my piece of advice about this is don't worry about things muscles that you haven't used for a long time. I hadn't written much since I was at high school. Just make sure that you get the help that you need for the future, because you've got a very bright future ahead. And the earlier that you get help with something, the better that you'll be in the long term.
What are those challenges that you would say you faced as a woman, and how did you really deal or overcome those challenges?
Well, I think the challenges are less as a woman than just as someone who is different. But I think the main challenge is fitting in with a team that could be different to you. Really feeling very confident about what you bring to that team and letting everyone know what you think your strengths are, and being confident enough to share your weaknesses without feeling vulnerable about that.
What's your perspective on breaking the bias in any workspace? But if you would like to, focus more on the financial industry and what we're seeing now and what we have seen in the past, I think that would be really helpful.
I think people in finance like to have targets. I think once you set targets and you link them to things like compensation, it's very helpful in the finance sector. In my company, the ESG goals are linked to executive compensation, and that includes things like achieving gender balance. And once you have a goal like that, you start figuring out how to actually achieve that. And of course, as a result of trying to do that, you start to break down the biases. For example, you start to create yourself balanced slates of candidates that you're interviewing. You start to ask candidates the same kind of question, no matter who they are or where they're from. You're very focused on selecting the best person for the role, but making sure you've done it in a proper way, perhaps by having a panel interview, not just one person judging. So there are many different things that you can do this, but setting the target in the first place, I think, is the way forward.
That's great. And I guess sometimes, those biases, you can point them and you can see them in the workplace. Other times, they're unconscious, they're, very subtle, and you can't really pinpoint and say, this is exactly as a woman what I'm experiencing. And, it is because I'm a woman or it is because I'm a minority. Do you think KPIs do hit that side of the bias, breaking the bias, or is it more intricate in a sense than that?
Oh, for sure, the KPIs don't make people sort of alter their behavior on a day-to-day basis, other than putting in the processes to help them. Yeah. And I think actually pointing out to people how their behavior affects others is the thing that changes it. So if I'm walking down a corridor and I see two people, and one I know really well and the other I don't, I've got an inclination just to chat to the person that I know, but it could be sending a message to the whole office about the person I don't know. Or the boss doesn't know them. Are they any good at their job? This kind of thing. And if someone points that out to you, then you actually make the effort to say, hello, we haven't met. What do you do, etc.
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And it's great that we're having this conversation, because we are being honest about, look, the problem for all women generally is there, but the problem for women of color is really not the same for white women, because any representation that we see is probably still limited to white women at the executive level. But we have to recognize progress whenever we see it. So, as long as it is capturing that representation, it's still very important. Or anything, I know we're doing this for International Women's Day, so anything that you wanted to say on that specifically this year, that would be great.
Every year we have International Women's Day.
Yeah.
I don't think it should be just a day. We should be thinking about this 365 days a year.
Absolutely.
So that's my closing, really. And that's certainly how I think of it.
No, that's really great, Anne. And really a pleasure to speak to you today. Thanks for the time and for all the the advice and the experiences that you shared with us, I'm sure people will look at it and really learn a lot from you and really women that represent us out there.